Alright, so today we are going to be making a coil pot. I've got my design that I sketched out here. I'm going to use my coil pot to make a birdhouse, and I feel like making a multi-tiered birdhouse with a couple different rooms just for fun. So, things about a coil pot. When you're rolling a coil, you want to make sure to take off a piece that's not too big to work with. You want to make sure that you have a clean, flat surface to roll on, or else you're going to end up picking up a bunch of whatever is there. If you have a surface with texture and you roll on that surface, you're going to pick up that texture. So I like having a smooth, flat surface. I squeeze the clay to start it off in a general bar shape, and then I'm going to start rolling. I want to make sure to roll from my fingertips all the way to the heel of my palm. Now, I don't want to smash it. If I'm pushing too hard and I smash it down, that's going to be a problem. I don't want to do that. So, by getting this long distance, that's what's going to create a nice round coil for me. Now, you need to play with the clay. Roll a lot of coils as you're building this, so you're going to get better and better at rolling coils and feeling out how much pressure to put. If it's not thinning out, you need to push harder. If it's smashing, you're pushing too hard. So you need to find that nice, delicate balance. Let's talk about hydration. Right now, there is not a whole lot of clay here, which means that there's not a lot of water in that clay. But it's completely surrounded by air everywhere. So water's escaping here, 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 here. Water's escaping across the entire surface. So we need to make sure that we're not taking forever when rolling this coil. My hands are getting wet. The table's getting wet, so that water is leaving our coil. All right, I'm going to start things off with just a spiral. I'm going to take my end, I'm going to pinch it, and then I'm going to start to continue to work my way around. Now, if I just spin this, it's going to have to pull the clay in order to wrap around, and that's going to tear my clay. So as I'm spinning, I'm also pushing it down the line to make sure that it doesn't break itself. If you're having a lot of problems with cracking right now, your clay is not soft enough. Alright, so I got a good spiral here. Not exactly as big as I want it to be. Also not a problem. I'm going to take some more clay. I'm going to roll an even bigger coil this time. Now, if you start with way too much clay, it's just going to get out of hand on you. Like this, I might tear a little bit of this off. Could roll it out, but in the space I have allotted, I think I might just get kind of carried away there. I never want to sit in one spot too long, so if I'm starting to see that the center is getting a little thinner than everywhere else, I want to make sure to stay away from the center. I'm going to start moving towards the left, and then over towards the right. And as long as it's the same thickness all the way across, we're going to find that as I'm rolling, it rolls with me. Once we have a really big difference, high contrast, and like say it's really thick over here but really thin over here, then you're not going to be able to roll it in line like this. You got to make sure that you keep it pretty even. All right, now I've got a nice coil here. I'm going to get some slip on here just to make sure that it does stay. But I'm about to blend it all together anyways. All right, now I'm just going to continue that spiral, being gentle with my clay. Very gentle. This looks like an excellent size. Yeah, I think this is going to be great. We'll have a little piece here, some pieces coming up. Love it. Now, I want to make sure that this doesn't fall apart. So, I've got to blend it. This is something that's not going to be seen, so it doesn't really matter to me. But I am going to blend carefully. I'm using the tip of my finger. I could also use my thumb. I would certainly be using the tip of my thumb. You can see where the clay is there. So the more aggressive part of your hand is where the bone is on the front. I just do this over and over. Clay is one of those things where you gotta convince it to move where you want it to go. I can't just once or twice over this and have it be smoothed out. I have to gently, many, many, many times, slowly adjusting my pressure as I go. A little stronger pressure at the beginning to get rid of spots, and then lighter pressure to really smooth it out. Now I'm using the pad of my thumb to smooth things out. Now I got a nice good start here. I'm going to switch it from my smooth surface. As you can see, it will get stuck. I'm going to switch it from here to, right now I've just got a cloth napkin. You can use a t-shirt. You can use a paper towel. Though you got to be careful, paper towels will fall apart. You could work on a piece of cardboard. Work on anything that will release the clay. So a cloth, a papery material, something that's hard and flat, though great for rolling coils, you'll get stuck to it. All right, I'm gonna start rolling some more coils, and I'm gonna get like 2 or 3 made, and then we'll start attaching them. So I've got a few made here. Notice they are pretty much the same thickness. Lengths vary a little bit, but I'm not too worried about that. So to keep them the same size, we need to think about mass when we first grab. How much are we grabbing? As we roll, think about how thin are we going to roll it. Once it gets to a thinness, we can never make it thicker again. We just need to roll a new coil. So if you get an area that gets totally pinched and way too thin to work with, like say like this, I cannot fix that. That needs to just be torn off. And we'll put it to the side. All right, I'm gonna roll one more real quick just so that we have a few good ones. If I'm rolling a larger coil, let's see, if you have a coil that is flattening out on you, you might not be moving far enough. If you're only moving a little bit, you're gonna have coils that flatten out. If that happens, go ahead and try to get it back to as round as we can. And then we're gonna make sure that we're going all the way from the tips of our fingers to the heel of our palm, as far as you can make it go. And that's how we're gonna get it round again. That's how we're gonna keep it round as we go. If it starts getting too big, I'm gonna put 2 hands. Notice my thumbs are locked in together. I wanna make sure that my hands don't move in separate directions or I'm gonna tear my coil. They must move as one unit as we go. And make sure to not stay in one spot. Sliding back and forth, adding or lightening pressure constantly, reading and feeling the clay. Okay, that's a pretty good coil. All right, now I want to start attaching them to my coil pot. I'm going to take my fork, I'm going to score everywhere where I'm going to connect. I'm going to start with the big thick one because it is on the base, so it's got to support some weight on top. I'm going to score all the way down. As you're rolling your coils, you have to think about physics and construction and how you're going to build your object. So I have to have it planned. I know that whatever's down here needs to support all of this weight as I'm building. So I'm probably going to use thicker coils and thinner coils so that I try to keep that weight distribution controlled. Keep that in mind as you build. If you start building with super duper thin coils, it could get a little tricky. All right, now I've got my slip. So I'm going to go ahead and put a bunch of slip on here. In fact, I'm going to drop some more clay in there. It'll melt as we go. Slip should be very, very wet and sloppy. That's how we know it's going to work right. Okay, I don't need this whole thing. I need about that much. So I'm going to cut it just to a basic length. Now I'm going to carefully bend it and lay it down. If I'm not careful as I flex this, it's just going to break on me. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and have this go all the way around. I am just a skosh short. Not a big deal. I'll go ahead and cut a little piece off. It's just soft clay. So I'm going to press it in there. Now I'm not going to leave it like this. You're not going to leave it like this. You're going to clean it up. I support with one finger so I know the shape. I'm creating a rounded shape here. The other hand literally has to press hard enough to smash the clay into the piece next to it. and then we'll get that nice and smoothed out. Now I can go around and smooth this up and clean it up, but if I do that every single time, it's gonna add a lot of extra time to what I'm doing. So I'm gonna go ahead and add, I don't know, 3, 4, maybe 4 levels of coils before I go back and do one cleanup over the whole thing. As I'm adding coils, if I want this to expand out, as I'm adding a coil onto here, I want to make sure that I'm putting it to the outside of the coil below it. And then the next one above that, if it goes to the outside of that one, we're going to start working our way out and creating an outward shape. Now if I want it to go in, we can put a coil towards the inside. And this is how we can control the shape, making vases, all kinds of different things. I'm going to put the next one to the inside of that. Now I'm not cutting these or attaching them yet, I'm just showing you how we can control our shape by going out or in. So this is how, if you're making a vase, you can go out and back in. You can get an hourglass shape. You can get pretty much any shape you could imagine with coil pots. It's pretty cool. All right, I'm going to continue adding these up. Mine is a straight up cylinder, so I'm going to go straight up and finish creating this bottom portion. I'm going to have to put an arch here, so we're going to see how that works out. Once I put all these together, we're going to cut that out. Okay? All right, we got a few on here. I want to make sure that I'm picking this up, looking at it all the way around. I never want to just leave it in one spot and not check it out, because I want to make sure I see all the way around it, control all the way around it. I'm going to add one more coil, and then we're going to get our first hole cut out. Now, for some people, rolling a coil works real quick. For other people, you have to go slower. If it's tearing apart, if it's flying all over the place, if it's getting smashed, you're going too fast. Even if it looks like my hands are going fast, I know exactly how hard to push, so you might have to go a lot slower to get this to do what you want it to do. That looks good. All right, gentle. I'm gonna go ahead and score. You have to be careful because you don't want to destroy your project while scoring it. I'll score all the way down my coil. If I gouge this too much, I could just tear the whole thing apart, so do be gentle. Get a bit of slip on there. Same over here. Let's see, we could probably end this about here. Carefully lay it down. Now some tips and tricks. I'm going straight up, but even if I'm going straight up, sometimes it'll end up a little thinner as I go up. Sometimes it'll end up a little thinner on the bottom. So sometimes you need to control where your shape is going. If I'm getting wider and wider and I don't want to, and this is all just soft clay, I can carefully try to compress just a little. Try to make it a little smaller. If it's getting too small and I want it to be bigger, I can give a pinch, almost like when we were making a pinch pot. And as I make the clay body thinner, that clay has to go somewhere, so it's expanding and it's getting wider as we go. All right, I've got a pretty good shape here. I'm gonna go ahead and take my knife. Where do I want to do this? Find a side that's a little thicker for me because I want to cut it out. I want to make sure that I'm still structurally sound. All right. I don't cut immediately. I plan some little marks. And I want this to curve all the way over. I want this to curve all the way over. Okay, I have a nice little doorway. It's gonna be great. So now I'm gonna cut this out. Carefully and very, very slowly. Otherwise, I risk tearing my whole project apart. I have to do this while my clay is still soft. If I don't do it while it's soft, I'm not going to be able to cut into it. Oh, you know, we could even leave that like a little walkway for him. But I'm not going to do that. I have other plans. Okay. Ooh, careful now. That is really fused together. All right, I'm going to clean this up. Again, supporting on the inside as I just gently blend. If you happen to have a paintbrush and a little water, this is a great time to break that out, because that can help me smooth all of these sections out really nice. And I don't want to just leave it sloppy and chunky. I want to make sure that I get it cleaned up. I want to control everywhere and have it be pretty. That's the whole reason I'm making it. All right, my first section is made. I've got 2 more to make real quick, and then we're gonna focus on attaching them on top. All right, I got my 3 made. I'm gonna go back over them and just look everywhere. All my connections are smoothed out. You can't see anywhere where one ended and the next begins. I'm just working my way around, making sure if anything gets bumped or isn't round, I take the time to correct it, shape it the way that I want it to be. Always retouching and touching and retouching some more. Okay, I haven't cut the holes in these 2 yet because I'm gonna start adding the tops on them first. Get all the structure built, and then I'm gonna cut that hole in there. So just as we talked earlier, if you want something to go out, each coil goes a little to the outside. Well, my design, it doesn't go out, it comes in. So I'm gonna start putting them slightly towards the inside, and then I'm gonna have it come straight up. Get my slit. Okay. Now this is really important. When I place it, that I put it to the inside edge of the one below it. I'm not putting it directly on top. If I keep putting it directly on top, it's just gonna keep going straight up. Blend the connecting, and then touch up. Okay, there's one. Too soon. If there's anywhere that's scored, that's still visible after you connect it, make sure you smooth that out. Be very careful. I'm gonna tear right where they connect. Pinch these together. And smooth it, smooth it, smooth it. I'm supporting from the inside. If I just try to blend this, I'm gonna smash it. I have to support from the inside as I smooth everything out. All right, nice. gently getting smaller and smaller, making sure I'm going to compress this a little bit here so that it does keep going in. I got a little bump there. I'm going to see how that works out as we move forward. I want to make sure that kind of disappears for me. Okay. Now we're starting to get really tight in this circle. I'm going to get it really close to where I want it. Tear it. And then make sure that it is well attached all the way around. Now, if you have a sponge or a cloth or a paintbrush, this is a great time to just smooth out everywhere in between. Any scoring that might still be visible, we just want to make sure we blend it. Control our surfaces, make it pretty. All right, we're almost there. All right, I've got my last little bit on there. I've created my top. I want to make sure I smooth everything out, clean it up the best that I can. Finish it off with the little ball, and I think I'm actually going to add a little loop here, and I'll do the same on this side to give us something to hang from. Let me finish this one up. We'll get our openings cut, and then we're going to attach them on top. All right, I've got both my little cones made. This one, I'll round you off a little. All right, I've got them cut. Now, when I cut these, you're going to damage it a little bit, and that's okay because now we have access to the inside again, so we can reshape. If anywhere gets pushed in, we can go to the inside and push it back out to reestablish our shape, try to make them as nice as we can. All right, now that we've got these made, make my shape nice and pretty. Now we can try to attach them on the top of the base. Now, believe it or not, my base is sitting in my refrigerator right now because I want it to dry just a little bit. I want it to get about halfway dry, which is what we'll call leather hard. Whenever we're talking about leather hard clay, it's always about halfway dry. It's going to be sturdier, but we can still work with it. We can still connect, we can still carve, but if it's leather hard, it's not going to be too flexible. All right, I've got my base. It's halfway dry, so if I press on it, I can still make a divot in it. I can smooth the surface out, but this, I mean, it's not bending. It is much sturdier than it was before. So now, because it's halfway dry, leather hard, I know I can still attach to it, but I know it's going to support a lot more. Before, if it was soft, it's just going to squish. This isn't going to squish on me too easily. All right. Now I'm going to plan for how these are going to connect. I might actually flatten them against each other just a little bit. We'll get a little slip and scoring in there to make sure that they will connect right where I want them. I'm gonna make sure I use a bit of slip on this one because I want to make sure that these do stay together. Now I can hold them in my hand or I can lay them down. I think I'm going to lay these down just to make sure that I don't damage them. I'm going to get them to fuse properly. All right. Now I think I'm just going to continue building this laying down. Get this attached. And then we'll adjust some holes and how we're going to hang it. we'll be good to go. So I'm going to very gently mark where this is going to go. Just as a reference point. Just so I know where I'm scoring. I'll score all over on the top of this guy. You can see I have to be a little more aggressive with it now that it's leather hard. Once our clay gets leather hard, we need to make sure that we get finished working with it soon, because this will get past the point where we can work on it if we just let it sit out. I'm gonna get a good bit of slip in here. Okay. I'm ready. Very carefully make sure that these get fused and connected everywhere that they can. All right, now I've got, these are connected up here. This is connected all down here. So we should have a structurally sound project. Gotta be careful because it is soft still. And there we go. It is holding together. I touched this up because I bent it moving it. All right, this is gonna start holding in shape better once it dries a little more. What I need to address here are the holes that are left over. So I'm gonna take just bits of clay. I can use coils, or I can even shape pieces of clay that I can then attach and blend in and fill this in. So I'm gonna start making a triangle to fill this gap in here and make it nice and pretty. All right, let me go ahead and fill some gaps. I'm gonna put my links on top. Should be just about finished.
When?
So as I'm working here, some places I can't reach with my finger. So I've got a finger on the inside. I'm gonna go ahead and use my tool to reach the places my finger doesn't. Make sure that that's all getting sealed up. And then I smooth it out and make it nice and pretty. All right, I've had this sitting for a little while just to make sure that it is getting dry enough to support its own weight, just because it was still, very soft, pretty complex structure. At this point, even though we're not completely dry at all, we are starting to get leather hard all the way around. And this is it's looking pretty great. I think this should work rather nice for us.